It's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon and a rainy one at that. And as the showers wash over our communities, it is a deep reminder of our connection between our communities and our daily lives. This is Niger Delta Today, a program that explores the region, bringing you latest developments in the Niger Delta and also showcasing the unique culture and tradition of the Niger Delta people. Do stay with us as we explore the region together. I am Avero Swogene Ebo, and I will not be doing this alone as I am in the studio with
Siphon Ode.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Right. On today's edition, we'll be looking at rivers, Cross River, Akwa Ibom on high alert as Niger confirmed cases of Mpox. We'll also be taking out the gas leak in Kanafo local government area where they are looking for ways of addressing the gas emission incidents. And we'll also have Niger Delta youths calling for regularization of artisanal refining. And I head to Edo State where INEC is calling for the collection of PVCs, which will begin on Thursday. To kickstart the conversation, we'll start with the Mpox story, where since the World Health Organization declared the Mpox surge in Africa a global public health emergency, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) has intensified surveillance across Nigeria to swiftly detect and respond to new cases. All port health services across all 5 international airports, 10 seaport and 51 land food crossing borders are on high alert. Some states in the Niger Delta like Rivers, Cross River, Akwa Ibom have also been put on high alert by the NCDC. Bayelsa has 5 cases, Cross River 4, Ondo has 3, and Ebonyi State has 3 leading the pack. And Bayelsa State, according to the Commissioner for Health, Professor Seifa Brisibe, had reported 83 suspected cases and 5 confirmed cases of the disease without recording any death. And stopped by the surge in reported cases of monkeypox, the state government has implemented a multi-dimensional response strategy focusing on surveillance, prevention, and community engagement. Mpox is a zoonotic viral disease caused by monkeypox virus. While it shares similarities with smallpox, it is generally less severe. Let's take a look at this video from our correspondents.
Pox, popularly known as monkeypox virus, transmitted through animals to humans, has emerged in eastern Congo and spread across 13 other African countries, with 39 recorded cases across 33 states of Nigeria, including Federal Capital Territory. Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Olajide Idris, has urged the public to avoid animals that could harbor the disease, caution health practitioners to imbibe the safety standards precautions to avoid being infected by patients with the disease.
Our advice to the public: to prevent Mpox, the spread of Mpox, we strongly urge members of the public to adhere to proven infection prevention and control measures. These practices are essential in limiting the transmission of this virus, and they include avoid contact with animals that could harbor the virus, including sick or dead animals in areas where Mpox has been confirmed.
The Director General also stressed that Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention has developed a functional disease seasonal calendar that highlights when the risk of each disease is most likely to be low, moderate, high or very high throughout the year.
Rapid response teams deployed to the states actively conduct case searches in high-risk local government areas to identify and link individuals with suspected cases to appropriate treatment centers. For health workers, for both private and public, they are further advised to, one, when caring for patients, always follow standard safety measures, including preventions against droplets, regardless of their diagnosis. These steps are crucial for protecting both patients and healthcare workers.
Dr. Idris says the issue of funding and vaccines availability has stalled production of local vaccines, adding that the government is working tirelessly on this.
Well, joining us to expand the conversation with regards to monkeypox and how it's been spread across states of the Niger Delta, we have the Chairman, Association of Community Pharmacists of Nigeria, Akwa Ibom State Branch, in the person of Pharmacist Anderson Tony. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to today's show on MPOS.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. So, sir, for the sake of our viewers, first of all, what is monkeypox and what's the cause of it?
It's no longer called monkeypox because as at 222, during a review, it was said that animals and countries shouldn't be stigmatized.
Okay.
And so the name was shortened to MPOS, so that it won't look like particularly a monkey thing. And so when we talk of MPOS, it's a viral illness that is caused by a species of autopus virus.
Okay.
And there are two strains, Glade 1 and Glade 2. The Glade 1 is has more mortality rate of about 10%, far more in Central Africa.
Okay.
And then you have the Glade 2 that has a mortality rate of 1%, found in West Africa and in Nigeria. But the strain we are having now in 2022 is a new strain, an offspring of the Glade 1, which we call the Glade 1B. And why the African Control Disease and even the WHO have decided to declare it a public emergency is because of the fear that being an offspring of the Glade 1, it could also have that high mortality rate that Glade 1 has. In the new one we call the Glade 1B.
Okay.
And looking at monkeypox, it's really not new. It's been with us for the past 66 years. In fact, the first time the monkeypox was discovered, it was in 1958 in an experimental monkey in Denmark. And it was even accidental because research shows that monkey was not the original reservoir.
Okay. Most
scientists believe it came from some rodents, squirrels, and some other lower mammals. Okay. Then again, during the 70s and 80s, there was a high need for smallpox to be eradicated in the country. So in trying to eradicate smallpox, which also is also an autopus virus, they now discovered the monkeypox first in human in Congo in a 9-year-old baby.
Okay.
Then in Nigeria, in 1971, we had 2 confirmed cases in Aba and no death. After that, nothing was heard about it till 2017, which is 46 years later. We now had a reoccurrence of the virus where we had 202 suspected cases, 88 confirmed cases, and 5 deaths as at 2017. Since then, it has been a repeating occurrence. Particularly, the epicenter is always the Congo. And then in Nigeria, we had in 2017, we had in 2018, 2019, up to 2021. Okay. And in all, for these years, we had a total of 228 suspected cases and a total of 9 deaths. And in all of this, when you look at the demograph, Lagos, Delta, and Rivers have occurred concurrently from 2017 to 2015. You also have Cross River by not the 221 first. Don't forget, in 2022, this new strain called the Glade 1B now surfaced. Okay. You know, and then what is more worrisome is so many routes of transmission. Like, you know, the MPOS disease is a zoonotic disease that actually should move from animals to humans. But now we are having it from humans to human. Okay. And it's very violent that you could have it in materials, like you could have it in working surfaces in clothes, you could have it skin to skin, you could have it mouth to mouth. In fact, the Glade 2 was said to have first discovered in homosexual men having sex with men. Okay. And then it spread. So it's transmissional routes are more combo kind of compared to the regular. And when you also look at the Glade 2 being new, it's also giving a lot of concern because it means new vaccine has to be developed against this particular strain, not the Glade 1 and 2 we had before. Okay. And then even when these vaccines are developed, it may not be sufficient enough to go around. And that is why most times we'll call upon the government to look at how to produce this thing locally so that we could solve this problem.
We'll get
locally.
there. Let's take a look at the severity of this grade 2 that you mentioned.
No, grade 1B.
Yeah, grade 1B, this strain.
Yeah, the strain, as I said, is an offspring of the grade 1. And so a lot was not known about it. And don't forget, it started in Congo since May 2022, and it's been there. But before now, because it was just concentrated in a particular country, there wasn't so much world attention on trying to curb it. But having spread outside Africa now, most countries are beginning to see a need to bring it to an end, and so a lot of works are going. So the clade 2 definitely is more lethal, because in Africa, for instance, about 2,863 cases have been recorded and about 517 dead. The clade 1 or 2 rather that we normally have in Nigeria has never been this virulent before. So we are having clade 2, and so there are not enough information, but it looks likely that it may become more fatal. Okay,
thank you very much, sir. You did make mention of the fact that the vaccines that are being produced. To the best of my knowledge, these vaccines are actually to prevent the spread. So what are the measures taken to treat
when you look at it, just like any other viral infection, it does not have a very definite treatment for now, you know. But when it occurs, what we do is referred to as supportive management. You know, trying to look at abating the symptoms. Looking at the treatment comes vis-a-vis the symptoms so seen, you know, because of the way the symptoms are being presented. Because the ultimate aim is to ensure that death is avoided as much as possible. That is why when people suspect it, we don't encourage self-medication, because it's not something you can really manage on your own. What you could do is maybe do a self-isolation, and then after that call for a medical attention, because sometimes when you look at the mpox virus, it looks so much similar like the smallpox virus, which is caused by the virular autopox virus too. They're almost on the same family. That's the smallpox. Even the chicken pox, the rashes in this chicken pox look so similar too. In fact, there are instances where they are trying to diagnose mpox, and at the end of the day, they find out that it wasn't mpox, it was actually chicken pox there. So there's a need for you to self-isolate and then go for a proper medical check, because these incidences have to be recorded, the data has to be known, they have to be surveillance, they have to be traceability.
Let's take a look at the symptoms. How do you identify it?
When you talk about the symptoms, there are many. You could have fever, you could have headache, you could have enlarged lymph nodes from the neck, the armpit. Then you could have, most especially, the rashes. But the way the rashes of the mpox comes up is a little bit different from others, like from chicken pox. You see it coming from the face, it will move from the face, get to the trunk. You could have it in the anus, you could have it in the genitals, you could even have it on the palms of your hand, on your foot, and it's generalized, it's bigger, could have fluids in it, could have pores, and after that it breaks and forms a crust on it. So by the time you notice such rash, it could be a strong indication of it, particularly now that there is an epidemic. But then the other complications that it could lead to, but the commonest symptoms could be the fever, it will just look malaise, a flu-like kind of symptoms. But when you now start seeing rashes in the faces, unusual rashes, bigger rashes, and then, but when you see those rashes, it's also advisable not to puncture or burst them, because when you puncture or burst them, that fluid is virulent. It will spread more on other parts of the body. And then when you also look at this, apart from these symptoms, you find out that a whole lot is affected. It could be transmitted skin to skin. And so anything that involves skin contact prolonged could lead to, you know, a transmission.
So social distancing is back to the society?
Somehow, yes, somehow. If you don't have a need to be in any particular crowd, why go there? Then when you look at, apart from the skin to skin, even mouth to mouth, mouth to skin, sexually, you even have pregnant women transmitting this to their fetus, and then even the children are the worst affected if you look at the demographics. And so it's something we just need to take seriously. Most importantly, self-isolate, be aware. Let's create awareness even to the rural area. Don't forget it's a zoonotic disease, not just from the monkey. You could have lower mammals also have it. Most of these bushmeat that people still patronize in the rural areas. In my own opinion, it should be avoided at this particular time. Just like we did during the time of Ebola, because though sometimes this element is self-limited, but some deaths have occurred. Like if you look at Nigeria, from 1971, when it first occurred with 2 people in Aba, till 2021, we've recorded a total of 9 deaths. Yes, even though that's low, but no deaths is better than the other. We don't have reason to die of things that are actually avoidable. So now there must be increased surveillance, there must be increased awareness, there must be activation of all the monitoring centers. You know, I know the government is doing much on that. That's why they can report accurate data. Because
now talking about the monitoring centers and all of that, you just mentioned this is an epidemic we're facing right now. How ready are our primary healthcare facilities to handle things like this? Because this is actually the closest to the people before referral or any other treatment will be done. Yes,
all the states have sent red alerts to all the medical centers, be it primary, secondary, tertiary. At least they are aware, they are prepared. In fact, by the time the COVID-19 surfaced in Nigeria, those emergency center, before the COVID-19, they used to activate them only when there's a pandemic. But after the COVID-19, the CDC had to keep those centers alive at all times. They're always ready and on surveillance. And the latest report I got was that they even want to have their permanent staff and make sure they are there at all times. So there's readiness on their part, because even though as Nigerians we may not need to panic so much, but we must increase our surveillance, we must increase our readiness, we must increase the awareness so that we could have little or no casualty in terms of death.
Now, those at high risk of contacting this virus?
Children mostly, younger persons are at high risk. People in the rural area are generally at risk. One, the information don't get to them on time, and 2, they have a lot of myths. Their conception about everything usually is the other way around. They all feel government is just raising alarm for raising of alarm case. That's why it's not just the duty of the government. All hands have to be on deck. The religious leaders, traditional rulers in their neighborhood, they must have a way of passing this message, because there are people who believe them more that are closer to them than the government that you don't get to see. So there must be that general awareness. Then people that people should even be careful. People that have multiple sex partners, you should mind how you get close to people. You should mind how you kiss people now. You should mind places you go and all of that.
But now you're talking about multiple sex partners. Does it mean that this virus, right, it can actually be in the body of a person for a period of what time before manifestation?
Well, it has an incubation period of, say, 3 weeks, 1 to 21 days, 5 to 21 days. It could start manifesting. But when it is already there, even when the symptoms are not manifested, don't forget it could still be transmitted. You know, so but what we need to do is high alerts, you know, because sexually it can be transmitted. So if you're having, for instance, multiple sex partners, the risk is high, just like any other infection. Then male to sex, most of the risky behavior generally should be suspended, if that's possible at this point.
Statistics have shown that most suspected cases are found in the male gender. Why is it so?
In the male gender, there's a statistics. It means they're having more exposure. Well, I don't know much about that data, because particularly for the grade 1B, is actually new and is still being understudied. Maybe male perhaps are taking more risky behaviors. The ones in the rural area may be consuming more of these mammals. There just could be some scientific explanation to it.
But you're talking about the preparedness of this epidemic, the health sector.
Yeah.
Now, you know, during the case of Ebola in Nigeria, we had some health workers who fell victim to all of this. How ready are these people to safeguard the health workers in the course of doing their duties?
Yes, the health workers have protocols when managing virulent infections like this. So most times you see them wear their protective wears from head to toe. They must make sure they follow all of those protocols because and with all of these red alerts to knowledge as the day progresses and more is being discovered about the grade 2 virus. But then they must do their job. Yeah, so all hands have to be on deck just like you're doing.
So how do we handle cases of stigmatization that might be associated with this?
Well, stigmatization is one problem in most of this public health thing. But with proper education, when people get to know how it occurs and the transmission, they'll find out that they will now come to a realization that anybody could be infected or affected. And so when you know that you that is stigmatizing another person could also be infected of that, you see a need not to do that, because people that live in glass house don't throw stones.
True. And you made mention of the fact that people in the rural areas do not get these awareness tips early enough. So how best do you think this message, this campaign, this awareness could be passed across to these people?
Well, for people in the rural areas, I said, most of these things, government alone can really not do it.
Sure.
It involves every person. The religious organization in this area should preach this, should add this in their sermon, because their members have to be alive first for their institution to continue. Traditional rulers, because when they hear from those people closest to them, they will believe it, because most time in the rural area it's meat. You are saying I shouldn't eat my bush meat again. This is just a word of discussion. They just feel somebody is trying to deny them of their privileges. But by the time the proper education is done and they understand the risks and they see the need to stop it or to change their ways, attitudinal change, then it will create more impact in curbing the menace.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Pharmacist Anderson, your parting shot before we go.
Well, what I would advise people is that the mPOX is not a death sentence. Let's not be so much panic. Let's create the awareness. Let's be watchful. Let's reduce our risky behavior, and then hope that this menace will still come to an end in the shortest possible time.
Thank you for coming to our studio,
Thank
sir.
you.
We look forward to having you some other time.
Thank you.
All right, it's still Niger Delta today. Before we continue the conversation, let's go on a short break. We'll be right back.
No matter wetin I see, enough fit make mouth heavy to talk am. That's now why people dey talk.
You know wetin dey worry you, but you no go fit take help yourself.
In this kind of situation now, what if they really no talk to una? Wetin be the way forward?
They go bury our chairman on Thursday. We go remain here.
Make we talk good where we dey see good, and where we know say we no dey see good, make we also dey talk am.
No woman, no mother deserve to know the grave of his child.
The bank manager and the bank executive, they are the one the government should first face.
People They Talk, the show on Monday to Friday by 5 p.m. on top ADBN TV.
In a world of overwhelming voices where everyone has different opinion on different issues, it is important that we bring the core issue to the fore. Join me, Nancy Banigo, on Softline as we lend our voices to inform and influence your thoughts and actions. This is not just mere talk, it is an educative program that touches the core of our existence.
Welcome back to Niger Delta today. Let's shift our attention to Kanafon local government area where a recent gas emission incident involving Savannah Energy gas pipeline located between Ikorubong and Ikorinyangabia villages in Kanafon local government area of Kwabam state has led to concerns about the health and environmental hazard posed by the gas emissions. Now on Tuesday, August 13, 2024, the chairman of the Transition Committee of Kanafon Local Government Council, Honorable Godwin Sunday Ekpe, met with representatives from Savannah Energy, the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSTRA, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, the Ministry of Environment and Mineral Resources, and other key stakeholders with the aim of addressing the gas emission incidents. Investigation by the NOSTRA team identified the cause of the gas emission as an act of technical sabotage perpetrated by unknown persons. It was also discovered that an 8-inch drilled hole on the gas pipeline. Now, consequently, residents in the affected area were sensitized on the potential dangers associated with the gas emission and cautioned to stay out of the scene. At the end of the meeting, Savannah Energy was asked to take the necessary actions regarding the gas emission, which commenced on Sunday, August 11, 2024 at approximately 5 a.m. We have in the studio Dr. Godwin Udofia from the Faculty of Science, University of Uyo, and he's also the chairman of Niger Environmental Society, who will be giving us a proper understanding of the issue. You're welcome to the studio, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
All right. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you so much.
Let's start with the environmental impact on that particular community.
Okay. The incident is involving gas.
Yes, gas leak.
And we know what gas is. It's something that mixes very freely with the air and the atmosphere. So from that source, the source of that leakage, the gas is being expelled into the atmosphere. So areas around, we may not really be able to determine the extent, but the areas around are going to be impacted by the gas.
In what way exactly, sir?
Well, in the first instance, those kind of gases are quite flammable. They can burst into flame even without ignition. They can burst into flame without ignition. They are highly volatile, as they can escape very easily into the atmosphere. So their presence poses a very serious threat in that very environment. Remember, it's a village environment, or not even is a habitable environment, and people will need to cook. So there's a high risk. So while trying to prepare your food, you need fire.
True.
And while going about that, it can lead to serious disaster. So the continued presence of that gas and not attended is a very high risk to the people or the community as a whole, not only human beings, even the animals, even the vegetations and so on.
What about the health implication?
Yes, that is another aspect. Another aspect is that, as I said, it's a gas. It mixes with the air that you breathe. And really, it is not, that gas is not a type of a gas that supports, how do I call it? Breathing, respiration. What I mean by respiration, I'm talking about the actual process of the breakdown of food within the system, because it requires oxygen.
Yeah.
But this is not oxygen. So a situation that you might have it in so much volume that it affects the available volume of oxygen. So a lot of things as physician can lead to so many other things.
So as an expert in this field, what would you recommend before all of these remediation activities is being done? Should there be evacuation of the people?
Yes, in situations like that. And it's just unfortunate that an incident that took place how many since on around 11 and up till today, it has not been contained. It's worrisome.
True.
It is something that needed, and we have agencies that are supposed to respond immediately. Things like that are happening. Where you have disasters in an environment, I think one of the best things is to evacuate. Yes, it will be safer for the people to be moved out from that environment until that problem is corrected.
So how would you rate the remediation and response, judging by the existing regulatory framework we have with regards to this issue?
It's low. Very, very low.
Okay.
Very, very low. Because as we speak, I'm not very sure any abatement has taken place. I'm not very sure.
But Niger and others have visited other relevant stakeholders.
Visitation is outside mitigating.
Okay.
Visitation is just to go and see, probably take data and so on. But that doesn't stop the reason. Is the gas still being spewed out? Definitely. If it is, then they have not done anything. Because when you go there to see, you are supposed to respond immediately. And where you fail to respond immediately, it means you've not done anything. Because this is something that the disaster can come in at any point in time. So we may not know the precautionary measures that probably the villagers have taken. So we may not know that may have preserved the situation. But the situation is that a gas leak into an environment has to be contained immediately for safety reasons.
How do we get the resident to stay clear of this area? Because, I mean, we have situations that we have tanker, do something, accidents, and you actually see Nigerians, even knowing the risk involved, going to scoop fuel, even with the information at hand. How do we get them to stay clear of the place? Should we position security? I've been wrapping my head around it.
Well, yeah, putting security is a way that can help. Putting security to ward off, people, unauthorized persons coming close to that. That's a good one. But I think we will not be able to every time you bring security. We need awareness, education on the dangers involved. That's number one. Two, the level of poverty. You see, these things are linked together. Yeah. We cannot treat one thing in isolation. They are linked together. The level of poverty will make an individual to see the dangers, but it will still go ahead. Remember what happened? I think there's this place in the Bible that talks about those cripples. You've heard about it, where they decided, if we stay here, we do what?
We die. If we go, we die.
So the best thing is that let's just do what? Take action.
Yeah.
So the source of this product is there. Well, by God, we can go there, we get it, and nothing happens, and we make
Is it even possible that this drilling, this 8-inch hole that was said to be drilled, possibly the perpetrators thought it was
crude oil?
Yes.
No, that is the truth. Nobody will go and tamper with the gas pipeline. How do you tap it? How do you get it? It's not possible.
Okay.
So the idea is that they may have thought it is an oil pipeline or petrol, in fact, pipeline. So to get it, by the time they got to that, because if you look at that that clip, you notice
well
that you see excavation around that place. So it was carefully excavated, exposed the pipe, and then by the time that they're trying to puncture, they realized that it is gas, and then they now had to leave because they are not well equipped to get the gas.
Meaning this still brings us to securing our assets and...
Yes. The pipeline, the right of way of those pipelines, the government is supposed to find a way to make security along those pipelines. You can even engage the community people.
Exactly.
That's number one. Number two, I do not see why Savannah Energy, in their operational base, I can't see why they don't know that something has happened, unless maybe the technology of their production does not have metering system. You are generating a gas and you are passing that gas through a pipe.
And there's a diversion.
You should know. Measurement somewhere.
No. Sure.
So the moment the pressure falls, you should know that something has happened, and you should try and trace which of the lines are we having this low pressure. That is where I'm talking about the response. We didn't need to wait for the community to shout. It is the company involved that should even be the first to raise the alarm. That look, we are having low pressure along so pipeline that we have. It is suspected that either it is natural or human mediated. So from there they begin the investigation, calling NOSRA, calling the rest of the agencies and so on. Identify that very thing and address it immediately.
Okay, but the addressing of this leak, how immediate can it be? Is it possible to be done within 24 hours with the technology available?
The gas is released from somewhere into the pipe.
Yes.
Are there no valves?
Okay.
I'm thinking there should be valves
so
that control.
Temporary disruption.
You just cut off. It's just like you're having a leakage, a pipe water, a water pipe leaking in your house. Also, there are stop clocks, this, and they have also taps. So if, for example, the pipe that brings water into this room should have a control outside.
Yeah.
In case there is a leakage, damage and a leakage inside, you can stay outside and
the main control.
Put it off.
Okay.
And then come in to repair whatever problem that existed.
Let me take you now to your core field. Yes, now, for a while now, the whole world has been talking about climate change. Okay. And how does this impact on our climate, resulting in this climate change and all of this we're talking about?
The leakage or
the gas leak.
The leak. The gas that is being leaked, I do not really have confirmation the type of gas it is.
We're told methane is part of it.
Methane?
Yes, it's part of it.
If it is methane, then we're having a very big problem on our hands. There are 3 gases that are responsible for putting us where we are in terms of climate variability and so on. One of them is CO2, carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide. That's what we used to call them. Then the other one is a nitrous oxide, and then methane. Methane is more potent. Methane affects the climate more than even CO2. Methane has an impact of close to about more than 10 times the same volume of CO2, what it would do in terms of climate impact. Methane, one molecule of it can have up to 10 times the effect of releasing. So allowing methane to get into the environment, it is what we are still talking about affecting the reason, the climate reason. Because we know what they do. These gases, what they do, they are part of the greenhouse gases. So what they do is that when they get into the atmosphere, then form a kind of a blanket. Now the solar radiation coming in, getting through and coming to the earth, and by the time they are reflected, what is being reflected is in a form of infrared.
Okay.
And infrared is heat. Infrared is heat.
It's heat.
So, but by the time it gets reflected, because of that blanket, it cannot escape, and the heat now builds up.
Okay.
Within the layer that has been provided by the greenhouse gas.
Okay.
So, allowing that to get into the atmosphere, now consolidating that very blanket also would need to aggravate, the temperature, because we are talking about the global or the average, atmospheric temperature. So, what will increase that temperature is that the reflected infrared has not been able to escape, thereby the heat that it carried tends to increase.
Okay.
That is the same principle you use it when you cover yourself with blankets.
Okay.
If you are cold, you cover yourself.
Okay. Generates heat.
You are not generating. It is the heat from your body that is escaping.
Okay.
It's being trapped by that blanket, that material blanket, and then increasing the temperature around where you've covered yourself.
All right, doctor. After the meeting, Savannah Energy was asked to take full responsibility for that incident. Okay. Now, we had cases even in the Niger Delta region of oil spill, and the community till today are still crying out and still bearing the brunt of the impact of those spill. How do we actually get Savannah Energy to take action and take full responsibility?
That reveals the weakness in our laws and in our legislations.
Okay.
The weakness that is inherent in our laws and our regulations. Before Savannah embarked on this very project, there was an EIA.
Environmental Impact Assessment.
Impact Assessment.
Okay.
And within that very document, there is what they call impact mitigation.
Okay.
It's a section of that very thing. And in that section of the EIA, you must have explained, because this, what has just happened is something that supposed to have been, foreseen before you even embarked on that project.
Okay.
Assuming it is, human anthropogenically induced like that, or even natural, it gets in. What do you do? That section will explain what the company needs to do.
Okay.
And I'm very sure that they have that. But the point is that now that we are having this issue, have you been able to invoke what you have in your impact management plan? Already they have it. The document is there, because without those documents, Federal Ministry of Environment cannot license you to carry out those operations.
Okay.
So already Savannah Energy, within their confines, they have that document.
So
that should
the
guide
Federal
them.
Ministry of Environment, after giving the license, should also enforce.
Make sure that those things are done. And there are other agencies that are supposed to be. You don't understand what I'm saying? Okay. There are other agencies that are also supposed to be involved. So this very company has not obeyed the law to the letter.
Okay.
You understand? So we have other ways that they could be sanctioned.
Okay, so but sir, before we let you go, finally, in the case of oil spills and all of that, there's physical evidence of the extent of damage that is being done, and compensation is also prescribed. Is that anything like compensation when it comes to gas leak as well?
Gas leakage, I think compensations are considered whenever a project impacts on the environment.
The environment, okay.
And there's no way they will tell us that what is happening at Tukanafon has no impact on the environment. It has. Let's look at it, the I've just said something here that because of the presence of the gas within that environment, it will not allow the people that freedom, probably even to produce
everyday
food, everyday life.
Okay.
Is that their lifestyle and their living is disrupted.
True.
Because of that, they may have been given the instruction: please don't strike match, don't light this in because of this. And how do they feed? So even the feeding pattern of the people probably will have to be changed, altered.
Yes.
Probably they go for already processed food, and if you are not very used to that, it's a problem to you as an
All right, Doctor, before we let you go, let's move to other issues of concern here. We have here that a coalition of youths from ethnic nationalities in the Niger Delta believe that legalization and regularization of crude oil refining within the creeks of the Niger Delta is the key to addressing the issue of petroleum product importation in the country. Now, you will recall that the consistent drop in the crude oil production, a major income generating revenue in the country, has necessitated an intensified fight against crude oil theft and activities of illegal refineries in the country. But these youths believe that harnessing the artisanal refineries will help Nigeria take care of its domestic petroleum needs and even export. Before we go, let's take a look at this video before we continue conversation.
Okay. The then Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibanjo SAN, was around the Niger Delta and clamoring and championing the same cause, reinstating federal government's commitments and belief in the genuine and germane agitation for modular refineries to be established across the region. And a lot of us were hopeful because of the impacts that this would make or have in our environments. Impacts such as empowerment of our youth who are involved in the illegal bunkering. If these guys are empowered, aside the employment, the engagement, it gives the room for us to develop homegrown solutions for our crude oil refining process.
All right, Doctor. Are you also of the opinion that legalizing these artisanal refineries will help address our petroleum importation needs?
We do not need a formal system to be educated on the need for us to look inward.
Okay.
I always get concerned about situations where indigenous ideas, indigenous technologies, indigenous innovations are not being supported.
Okay.
We have a problem, and the problem is that getting PMS and the other types of product into the country is draining our resources.
Sure.
And here you are, some very, whether literate or illiterate people have been able to perfect a process whereby what you leave Nigeria to go and import outside, they can make it available to you. And as a government, you've not taken it as being part of your responsibility to develop that. It always makes me weak and weep.
Okay.
Let me take a little back. Some years ago, when the whites were coming into Africa, they came in and met our local gin production, and they gave it a name. They call it illicit gin.
Yeah, illicit.
It became illicit, but what they brought in, which is the same thing, was not illicit. Why do we still tie ourselves to that slavery mentality from outside Nigeria? There is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong. So to regularize that is one of the key solutions that the country as a nation can take to help us, get over the nightmare that we are experiencing every time concerning petrol.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. I think we are being joined in the studio also. I think via Zoom is there waiting and talking about the Ijaw leader. Can you hear me, sir?
Hello, sir.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon. I can hear you.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the program.
Yeah.
Sir, we already know that your take on all of this is a positive one, that there should be legalization of these artisan refineries. But looking at the economic viability, do you think the cost of the upgrades is feasible when it comes to our economic at this time?
Well, thank you very much for having me, even though I followed your program a bit late. Those of us who are advocating for a better Niger Delta region and who have also seen firsthand how this artisanal oil refining is being done in the Niger Delta region, and how it has also helped in reducing crime and unemployment, even though it is being done illegally. We have always been of the view that the federal government, instead of criminalizing this artisanal oil refining, they should rather legalize it and make it more conducive, so that those persons who are carrying out this artisanal oil refinery can be able to contribute to the energy demand of the Nigerian state.
Yes, that is agreed, sir. That is agreed. The question is, do you think the process of legalization and the upgrades to meet national standard or world standard, do you think is economically viable for us as at this time?
Well, of course, it is economically viable. You may recall that some of the products that are being imported into this country do not even meet up international standards.
Okay.
Most of this artisanal oil refining that is going on in the Niger Delta region are even more viable in terms of production.
Okay.
You know, it is it is more viable in terms of production. And so there is no better time than now for the federal government to encourage artisanal refinery, because as I speak to you today, you can see the long queues in the country.
True.
You know, you can also see how NNPC and the multinational oil companies are playing with the sensibilities of Nigerians. We cannot at this time have refineries in this country that are not working, and the federal government is also not politically committed to making sure that these oil refineries in the country works.
Okay.
Before the deregulation of the petroleum sector, the artisanal oil refining is the only mechanism within the Niger Delta region that have been sustaining the energy demand of our people.
Okay.
As I speak to you, that has been completely cut off. So I feel that the federal government should no longer waste any time than to see how they can make inroads to the Niger Delta and assemble these artisanal refiners, you know, put them into groups, give them licenses so that they can carry out these operations in a more legitimate form.
Okay,
and pay royalties to the federal government.
All right,
so
Mr.
there's no
Bilade.
better time than now to get it done.
All right, Mr. Bilade, how do we now handle the issue of substandard products?
Well, the issue of substandard products, it is not within the artisanal refiners to determine. It is left for government. That's why I said that you must legalize it. It is working. You know, before now, I can tell you categorically that even the petrol that is being used in civilized societies within this country are the ones that are being exported from the Niger Delta region.
Okay.
So it is possible, yes, it is possible for the federal government to
determine that.
Put this, yes, to determine that and make it very.
Okay. So, Mr. Bilade, for instance, peradventure the federal government agrees to the legalization of these artisan refineries. How would you handle the issue of local conflicts and other artisan refineries who will now stem up seeking legalization?
Like I said, it is about the federal government having that political will to do so.
Okay.
Issues of conflict will not arise if the federal government give legitimacy to what they are doing and also give them the necessary equipment and tools to improve what they are already doing. You know, and like I said, it will also reduce the violent conflict in the Niger Delta region further. And it will also, you know, give a lot of our youths employment, because it is what is engaging most of our youths in the Niger Delta region.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bilade. Thank you for joining us. I'm afraid time is not on our side.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, your parting shot, doctor.
No, but before we get doctor's parting shot, when it comes to this artisan refining, do you think there will be consistency when they are legalized?
Why not? Why not? The moment government moves in,
and it's sustainable,
and why not? It will be quite sustainable. What do you need to do? Identify them from all the Niger Delta, you know, states where they're operating. Identify them. Then see how you can go in, supervise what they are doing. You understand? Where you need the so-called standard, put a standard, and then see how they can process this thing to meet that very standard. It's possible.
All right. Thank you very much, doctor, for coming to the studio.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to having you some other time.
It will be my pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Well, that's the size of our package for today. Do join us again tomorrow for another interesting package on Niger Delta today. Don't forget that I wasn't doing this alone. We have also
Bye for now.